I am aware, and because of my own experience, that we are going through an huge emergence. And for me, emergence means the willingness to allow ourselves to feel fully all of the unintegrated, unprocessed, unexpressed emotions, feelings, the sensations that we have in our body that we push down. So this emergence um, is, it makes me think of liberation, finally being liberated from the chains of the mind and ultimately allowing that space to be who we are, who we each came here to be, which is unique. For you and for you, it's this unique expression of our soul selves in my experience.
Hi, I'm Rudy, and this is Voices of Emergence. Today, with my co host Alex de Carvalho, we are honored to welcome Stefanie Canavesio, a trauma informed guide, meditation teacher, and founder of Presence Embodied, a healing practice weaving somatic awareness, compassionate inquiry, and the deep work of narrative transformation. Stephanie's work is rooted in empathy, equanimity, and truth. She creates spaces where people can return to their bodies, meet their addictive patterns with honesty, and reconnect with the consciousness that lives beneath story. Through her learning journeys, her one on one guidance, and her creative work, she helps students rebuild safety in their nervous system, open their hearts, and remember who they are beneath conditioning. Today, we'll explore what it means to heal not by transcending the human experience, but by inhabiting it with presence, curiosity, and compassion. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you. Beautiful. So grateful to you both for creating this space. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having you. Yeah, for being here. So, when you hear the word emergence, what awakens in you right now?
Emergence.
Yes.
I am aware, and because of my own experience, that we are going through an huge emergence. And for me, emergence means the willingness to allow ourselves to feel fully all of the unintegrated, unprocessed, unexpressed emotions, feelings, the sensations that we have in our body that we push down. So this emergence um, is, it makes me think of liberation, finally being liberated from the chains of the mind and ultimately allowing that space to be who we are, who we each came here to be, which is unique. For you and for you, it's this unique expression of our soul selves in my experience.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm sitting with that. I would love to know more about that. You talk about presence and embodiment and like the felt feeling of this moment, kind of a transition. I feel it kind of, we're in a cocoon, like humanity is in a cocoon. Everything is melting and we will emerge as something else after this. How did you get to the state? Was there a turning point in your life where you moved from the mind to the body, like from the mind to the heart? Was there something? What did it look like for you?
Yeah, thanks for the question. There have been a lot of experiences in my life that have been almost kind of miraculously orchestrated. That I was probably at the deepest, darkest parts involved, I guess, immersed in my own pain and my own struggles with addiction, which lasted many years. And I learned to survive through numbing originally, and I struggled, I guess, 15 years with alcohol and drug addiction, and then I met Gabor Mate in my living room in New York City in 2008. And that was a turning point because I was probably at the most of and deepest in the throngs of addiction, which was working very well. And, that numbing works well until it just doesn't work anymore. I just have to say on a side note, like, I feel when you spoke about humanity being cocooned, that cocoon, it worked well. But now I think, especially in this now moment, we're becoming so aware of the cocoon. Not only does it, like, we are in a state of metamorphosis, and that we are so grateful to have had that cocoon, and it allowed us to survive. And, but coming out of the cocoon, if it does take a deepening within ourselves. And myself, for me, it was with the help of psychedelics in the beginning. And then I got caught in the web of psychedelics because that's one way in. Expanded states are epic. But the truth is we chose this human experience. So why not? Why are we perpetually addicted to escaping the body and being in conjunction with the divine or with the essence of who we are? But how are we going to embody that? So I think I kind of got lost in the tangent of psychedelics from 1999 to 2008 as well, because I was actively pursuing psychedelics, like in a expedited way. But then also I was still drinking and I hadn't done the inner work. And I think it's really easy in the beginning with psychedelics, as we're in the psychedelic renaissance, apparently, again, um, that there's that if you don't do it, if you're not really studying with a teacher and you don't have someone in front of you who's very experienced, it can be very combobulating and confusing. So all to say, it's my own growth is still happening, and it's happened in increments. And usually there is some type of an expanded state that then I process. And then now it's simply with just life itself. It's so strong right now for me. Just like, wow, this new moon, this, like, everything is so psychedelic. I don't need psychedelics. We're like tripping being human right now. Like, are we really on this planet? Is this really happening? And oh my God, and there's amazing people like you that also we're together, like, okay, we're in this together, and let's birth the new way through our questioning of, let's create something new together. So for me, it's ongoing, and Presence Embodied, even the brand that I created in 2015, I just I realized that presence, being completely present, was something I had only heard about, but until I experienced full presence and what that meant. And now it's like everybody knows what presence and embodiment is. It's just like in 2008, no one knew what trauma was. Gabor was talking about it, Bessel van der Kolk, maybe Stephen Porges, and like some people, but no one was really talking about it. And now there's the lingo. Now we have, social media and all of this. Everybody knows all this stuff, but who's like Thich Nhat Hanh? Who's doing the dishes? It's like everybody wants to drink ayahuasca, but nobody wants to do the dishes. Or, I mean, Thich Nhat Hanh didn't say that, but it's like, okay, everybody wants to be in the psychedelic states, but who's on the ground, like having the courage to be with, what's happening in the human realm, the 3D reality? I think that's the question. What are we creating as support systems, as spaces for people to come together to feel seen, heard, and held? Because that's I believe, how we heal.
Yeah, no mud, no lotus, right? That was how he called it, Jan. So But it's kind of extraordinary that you met Gabor Mate in your living room, at that time. And then he's such an amazing figure into trauma healing. And he became probably the trauma personality or trauma healing personality in the world right now. So, but how has it been for you to have this personal relationship with him and also be so close to the teacher, and as a student? So what have you learned from him, or what attracted you to him at that time?
I mean, that's a beautiful question. And Gabor is a beautiful man because he's in his truth. And his truth, he's very human and he makes mistakes. And he's always, uh, sharing that part of his human self and how he still gets, irritated and he still has arguments with his wife, and he still has, there's a word, a friend of mine, Rudy, Alona here, she calls it a kerfuffle, like those moments in life where you feel that your feathers get ruffled. So Gabor doesn't want to be a guru. He's a teacher, but he's a human. He makes mistakes, and he taught me that that being who we are and not trying to be like anybody else is what it means to be authentic. And now in a world where everybody's comparing and it's just human right now, but all these ways that we try to become something that we aren't really, even with ChatGPT, it's like this intelligence of AI accessing another wisdom. I'm creating a program now on accessing our inner intelligence, and that we have access to so much wisdom through the body and through the ancestral wisdom that we're carrying through our DNA and through our own divinity, however you see that, without a name, just understanding that there is like a quantum field of energy that we have access to if we allow ourselves to connect. And in a world dominated by distraction, it's counterculture right now to take the space to be still and to be quiet, to even access that inner knowing, which is the gift. It's the gift. And everybody's gift it has a different frequency. It has a different tone. It has a different, I truly believe that we each have different kind of missions here. And it's only up, the more that we deepen within ourselves, the more that mission or that purpose unfolds. And the first teacher that spoke to me about that was Thomas Hubel. He said that when you deepen, the more that you align to your inner truth, the path of purpose, your purpose unfolds. And it's true. It's like people are like, get me a purpose, they want to buy a purpose. Give me the course that's going to give me the purpose. It's like, no, like your purpose, the more that you allow yourself to be vulnerable and drop into the not knowing, the more it unfolds. It's just that we become so impatient. We want it in 2 clicks. I mean, I get it, but it's a trap, I believe, the speed. And so slowing down, like for me anyway, moving from New York City to Ibiza was really it was difficult for my husband at the time. I mean, little did he know that now we're developing a center here in Ibiza, which is much more meaningful than in New York City. But he needed to embrace his own fear of being quiet. My husband loves people and wants to be around a lot of people, but actually the solitude of Ibiza is allowed him to birth, this incredible new idea. So it's just to say, are we okay with not knowing as well? And it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to not live in expectations. But it's like the way through this kerfuffle is through the embodiment of that. For me, it's been like the more that I'm okay with not knowing, the more I'm wowed by reality. Like things happen.
Mm. Carl Jung said that it's a privilege of a lifetime to become who you were meant to be. And that to me means showing up authentically, vulnerably, with all your own quirks. I mean, I love Gabor Mate. He's been so important in my own life. I've never met him, but his teachings have been so important. And, he talks about being authentic and the myth of normal. Like nothing is actually normal. Like Krishnamurti said, it's not a sign of health to be well adapted to a sick society. And these things we see as neurodivergence are not really neurodivergence. It's just adaptations to very abnormal situations and circumstances in society. And I felt that myself when I was on my vision quest in the forest for 4 days. No food, no water, no screens, just me and the nature around me. And I felt guilty. And I'm like, why am I feeling guilty for being here? And I realized it was like the productivity guilt. It was the idea of like living in a city and you're always doing something. You're working or you're consuming, you're going out, you're going to the gym. Like your time is fully booked and you're always out there doing something. And suddenly I saw myself in the forest doing nothing, just sitting there. And I felt guilty about it. I'm like, wow, I'm not being productive to society in any way. I'm not consuming. I'm not working. I'm just here. I felt selfish for taking that time for myself.
Mm.
And that's when I realized, wow, there's something really wrong, because if I think about our ancestors,
Yeah.
they were okay being in nature. Like it was okay. Like there was no, gym to go to or socializing, it was like they were fully present in what had to be done at that moment.
And how did you resolve that for yourself then in
I mean,
the forest?
yeah, it's a whole, for me, it's a whole process. It took a while. I connected with everything you said about even addictions and growing out of that and becoming sober. And it's a whole, as you know, it takes a while. It takes years. But for me, the Vision Quest itself was a portal because of those insights. Like I emerged from the Vision Quest from those 4 days, a different person. It's like I jumped a timeline or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there isn't enough education on how that sitting with emotions in a safe environment like nature I truly believe that's the essence of compassionate inquiry, the approach of Gabor that I also share, but that being able just to express the unfelt, unseen, and in a safe environment, they transform, and insights come like hits after those moments. And so it's like that's the key, the jewel of the pain is that by acknowledging it, by giving it space to be felt in the body, by letting go and believing something larger than yourself, whether it's just and nature exists but it holds a frequency, you transform it, and it I do want to speak a bit about Difuso, because it's like a weekend isn't long enough and it's like we need spaces where people can come longer than 2 days or longer than a week, or longer than 2 weeks, because it takes rewiring and that takes time. Otherwise you go back after you're high feeling connected, I feel whole, I know who I am, and then 2 weeks later you're in the city. It happened to me every time. I would go back and use, because I didn't understand that it took longer, and now we know that it takes time being in an environment where you can see people living in that way and you can really integrate it into the body. So
Yeah, there's like an integration that needs to happen. There's a community, like you need to find the others. You're back in the city. Like after the Vision Quest, I felt the energy in the airport immediately. It was like, whoa, it's like after nature, stepping into the airport and and it's like,
Wow.
wow, this is overwhelming. And so it's really about, once you're back in the city, it's taking time to integrate. It's finding the others. And I find also there's like a frequency disconnect. Like you become more sensitive. You're like, oh wow, whatever. Like that politician, he said something really bad there. I mean, that like you notice it more precisely. It can be a little bit more shocking. And so that's in my case anyway. And so it feels like, wow, what universe am I in? Is it like, am I suddenly in a parallel universe that no longer matches like what or maybe I have an ideal and the world is not conforming to my ideal. And so there's like a adaptation or, integration is what I would call it. But I would think also finding the others, you
Yeah,
know, who can understand your new frequency
totally.
is
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the key of the future is this idea that we have that of course it's needed in the like change is needed in the big cities. It's not about escaping to nature, even though that's kind of what I did just because I needed for my sanity. I think after 40 years of living in the city, I needed to get out. But it's understanding that finding other people who actually still hold that awareness that we are in a huge growing process right now of evolutionary process, and that everything that we are experiencing is in some way supporting that, but it may not look like it. And this big feeling of collapsing, it's like I feel it within my own infrastructure, my own internal architecture is collapsed. And what's left is being, you know, built with my presence and awareness and practices every day of staying grounded and anchored. And it is rebuilding, but it's also understanding that there is a supportive nature outside of us, whether you want to call it our galactic family or a cosmic family, but there are other benevolent beings of light that are kind of holding that web for us to regrid energetically, because it is like I feel like an energetic, we are becoming more energetic simply. We're becoming more attuned to, we have the physical body, but we also have our energy body. We are designed to be in our have a light body, which is, from what I understand, the soul self. But it's a really uncomfortable process of allowing the old infrastructure to kind of crumble, and we're seeing it on the as without as within without as within without. I forget my words
Yeah.
too. All of a sudden, language doesn't make sense. Yeah. So yes, it's happening basically.
Yeah, so yeah, I think we all go through that process, or it's basically from the rational, the mind, living in the mind, doing everything from the mind, and to connecting back to the body.
Yeah.
That's basically the work, like to the energies in our body, not just the mind. And I know also I attended some of you have this consistency of weekly meditation groups or your circles and your daily practice, which is actually the work that needs to be done to help us move from the mind into the body and find alignment there. So can you explain a bit more perhaps about what you recommend, or how your own daily practices, like how do you stay connected in the body? Because okay, going to nature is one thing, we know that works, but like for people living in the cities, some cities hardly have any parks left, so it's really hard. And I know a lot of people are actually also, because we do a lot of online circles also where people connect, and there's this huge need of belonging. People want to belong to something, this huge need of the soul wanting to express itself. but it's kind of conditioned by the mind, like not to go there because it's scary, and you don't know what's going to happen because we're so used to this linear growth and linear thinking. So yeah, I always have seen you as a very grounded person, very committed, very disciplined, also very humble. And I know personally also that takes a lot of work to get there. So what do you recommend in like simple practices or daily practices that people can connect to?
I mean, for me, it's quite simple. I meditate every day, just 20 minutes in the morning. It's the classic. I used to do TM many years ago. I don't use the mantra anymore. Transcendental meditation, it's called. It was quite radical in the early 2000s. I think they still teach it, but it's every morning I sit in silence and I reflect on my day, and I work a lot with intentions, understanding that if we really, and the essence of CI, of compassionate inquiry, is also learning the power of setting a focus. Because even when we call upon spirit to us, I always ask spirit to assist me. I always remember what I'm doing in that day, what I'm here for in this day. And I feel the power of using my intention for my highest good. And I've been doing that since 2014 when I started studying with Robert Thurman and Joe Loizzo in a contemplative psychotherapy program in New York City at the Nalanda Institute, which was amazing. And the first year, it was a 3-year program, was what is your intention for the year? And I remember thinking, what is he talking about for the year? I'm just going to focus on one intention. I didn't realize how much the first year it was to be authentic, because I didn't even know. I was so unaware. I think because it does come down to awareness, like noticing the things that I'm saying, the words that I'm sharing, the thoughts that I'm having, being that there's this ability within myself to call upon the witness, that there is, like, who's watching, through meditation, but who's the one watching the thoughts? Like these simple practices of, oh my God, I'm not the only one in here. And not only am I not the only one in here, but there is a committee of voices, and the majority of them are not really nice. They're actually really vicious. And oh my God, they're like, they're watching everything that's happening and judging. Little did I know, then I met my inner critic. This was before I was aware of Parts work of Richard Schwartz, which I really like, and sometimes integrate them into the work of Gabor because they're friends, and it is interesting to use to understand, not to get confused, like we are all of our parts. Because then some people, like I've noticed, when they do parts work, they're like, oh, that's not, I mean, they all are who we are. It's like I don't want to demonize my self-critic because she got me quite far in my life. But then there was a moment where it was like, okay, somebody needs to take authority over all these voices. And it was up to me to choose which one was going to take authority. And that would be my true self or my authentic self. But, that's it takes a lot of practice. I would say, coming back to what you said about practices, the meditation, being in nature, I being okay with being vulnerable, like taking risks. For me, as a recovering perfectionist who wanted everything to be right, to make sure I knew everything before I went on stage or organized a talk or whatever. I mean, it was hell the first couple of years. Every day was a panic attack that I would have to meet years ago, if I was doing like today, having a conversation with you, I would have to have planned everything. I don't plan anything anymore because that's not who I am. Like, I don't know, but I'm just saying I was so fearful of being vulnerable and being I was so afraid of not knowing what I would say that I wouldn't do anything. I would just say no to everything. And so for me, healing came by the surrender experiment. Did you read that book? Saying yes for a year. Oh my God. I read that 2015 at something. You had to say yes to everything for a year. And then I was saying yes to in New York City. I just finished my training as a meditation teacher at Mindful. And all the people would say, "Do you want to do a meditation at my house on Sunday?" And every inch of my body was like, "No, no way." And then I remember I made a commitment to say yes, yes. And then I'd meet all these new people and have to speak in a crowd. And it was my biggest fear. But that's the only way I grew, by stepping out of my comfort zone. So I still do that. When I notice my body sometimes go, eek, I don't want to do a program. I don't want to do that. And then I'm like, no, that's a good sign. When you notice the urge to pull away and you stay courageous, miracles unfold. It's like, wow, the mind is so manipulative. You have to honor it. We love it, but it doesn't really, it wants to keep you safe, but it's not designed to help you grow, I believe.
Definitely, what you said is just so rich. There are a million directions I could go in. I heard somatic stuff in there that brought me back to Peter Levine and Bessel van der Kolk with The Body Keeps the Score. So somatic stuff in there. And Gabor Mate also has a somatic component. When he talks about ALS and people who are too much people pleasing, they tend to get certain types of illnesses like ALS because they never took care of themselves. They were always taking care of other people. And then the illness shows up in their own body. So that is incredible. You mentioned Richard Schwartz and internal family systems, which has been foundational to my own inner work. And these inner voices, some of which are truly not nice, and learning how to deal with them and allow them to kind of dissolve over time, integrate them gently. I also heard attachment styles, like when you have the urge to pull away, if you can just stay there, like the avoidant attachment that pulls away when things become too emotional or vulnerable, or it represents some kind of threat to them and they pull away. But we also do it with ourselves, like we avoid certain things, we avoid certain responsibilities rather than facing it, right? So the attachment styles I heard also there. I heard also softness and tenderness, the importance of tenderness, like the inner voice. Why is it so harsh? Like, can I be tender with myself? Is there another way for me to dialogue with these voices, or to recognize the self separate from this whole pantheon of voices and inner gods and archetypes? So that is everything I heard you say, which really resonates a lot with me. And one thing that, strikes me is that we can get certifications in these courses, like with Gabor Mate or IFS and stuff. And sure, those are important, they're important markers. But ultimately, it's the way we bring these together to create our own modality, which may not have a certification. I mean, it's our own interpretation of these valuable modalities and teachings, and even ancestral teachings, like the Hermetic principles you brought up. It's all in there with us, and we have our own unique expression of it, which doesn't have a certificate. Do you feel that? Do you bring these together and you have your own way of delivering?
I mean, it's absolutely. And you are absolutely the most incredible listener I think I've ever, ever met in facing. So I really want to honor you for listening so deeply. That's a gift. And you're Rudy, you are an incredible listener. I know, but I mean, that was a beautiful men. Thank you for embodying the divine masculine, both of you. I feel seen. um, ultimately, we are bringing our gifts into the field in our own unique way. That's, I think, the essence of being embodied fully as a human, hopefully, for the new, for to bring, I guess, to create the solutions that are needed for the kerfuffle that humanity is in right now. This is asking each of us to boldly embody and have the courage to create in the ways that we, whether it's standing up on your soapbox like I'm doing and creating presence embodied, or, creating what you both are creating in your own lives and families, and kind of, that is I believe, the call. And it is, it's easy to get caught in the vanity and the industry of wellness, and like, and am I in the betterment? Is it, I just want to get it, because I went to a really interesting conference in Copenhagen in October, Danish Health Week. It was beautifully done. It was all about longevity. And there were, you know, 50 speakers on supplements and longevity, but very few were talking about emotional wounds and healing pain. And you see this huge wave of let's live longer, but like, are are we trying to extend just the amount of years that we have on the planet, or are we embodying ourselves fully so that we are at service? Like, for me, it's the legacy that we leave. The legacy. I remember in 2008, when I was looking in the mirror, I was like, yeah, okay, I'm having a great time. I'm partying a lot. I throw great parties, but what's your legacy? And I I always ask myself, I always go back and like correct my inner compass to be geared towards that idea of, what am I leaving? How many people am I actually really truly assisting? And for me, that approach of through the body is so much more transformative than the previous modality, the previous ways that like psychology and psychotherapy, the traditional psychotherapy and psychology, were trying to diagnose people with all these problems and then give them, the different pills and all of that. And it's like this other approach. But now I believe this big shift is, um, how can we shift the healing to come through from the body up, by connecting into the emotional layers, by creating spaces where people can allow themselves to express instead of being told who they are, what they need to be, how they need to heal. It's like, nobody can know you're healing. You need to be willing to go into the darkest nooks and crannies and go through the ugliest that turn into the most beautiful aspects of ourselves. And so, um I guess, if I try to go back to the question, um I'm just doing what worked for me, and my I guess, the willingness to always question, um to do my best to see in the deepest challenges and struggles the glimmer of light that there is being shown to me. What is this showing me? what is this showing me? And so I think that that question every day when I wake up is, what am I being shown today? What can actually show me the way was more accurate. Show me the way. Because, God, I don't know what the heck is going on right now. It's pretty dark out there, but that hope through the willingness to be in the dark, I guess, and to understand that we're in this together, you know, and that this is the best, I guess this is, and so, yeah, I guess that creating that space for others to feel that within themselves in their life, that it's never too late to begin again, and that we are all, and this is from years ago, but I don't know, when I was studying with Gabor, is that we are exactly where we need to be to begin and that path. And it just begins with the willingness to choose differently and the power that we each hold that's dormant, that's been held, that's been hijacked and by other, by, even by just unconscious. It's been, it's not, we're not here to blame or to point fingers, but I guess, um, how can I show up differently today with a different perspective is what I would answer to your question, which I forgot what it was, but that was it.
Yeah, that was beautiful, Stephanie. So I wanted to get a bit to because you described that situation in Copenhagen, which is basically referring to the whole very masculine society that we live in, the systems, not on gender, but just like the systems are designed, to be productive, efficient, always towards a goal, idealism, perfectionism, all these things. And I want to get to like, where does the feminine energy as an energy come in, and why the feminine energy these days is so important, not just from relational level, but yeah, everything is relational, but just as the feminine energy from why the world needs more of this now, and how you bring that in your work.
I mean, the redefining of our roles is very, I'm really living it in my own relationship as well. And I, I've, the feminine are bringing in the intuition, and it's not at all saying, we're all half masculine, half we all have half masculine and feminine. We're both, but the gift of pausing and allowing and feeling and being receptive are feminine. And it's for myself personally, the past 6 months, I felt so much that masculine energy of, come on, let's get, and plus I'm working with my husband in a co-creation of this center, and he's very much in his masculine. And I felt literally crushed because I need time, I need space to feel into things. That's just who I am. And he's much more intellectual, which is a gift, but also we are learning how to, or I don't know how he's learning it. His experience is different. He does, it's like, it's not easy to allow the feminine into this masculine field, but it needs to happen. And if we don't allow it to happen ourselves personally by finding ways of communicating better, we outsource to a therapist of Difuso, who's helping us now to communicate, because we were stuck in this power dynamic that was keeping us gridlocked. And that's what's happening. I feel that there's a gridlock right now, and it's unconscious, driven by our unconscious of being misunderstood, feeling misunderstood. The men, I mean, I understand, like my husband, I understand he loves me, but he doesn't really hear me as I need to be heard, and I need for my emotions to be supported. He's learning. So we all have our training wheels on in relationship. I'm working more and more with couples as well, because there's so much potential when a couple is in that struggle to create a space. Simply, usually it's because we each need to express ourselves and to see that dynamic that keeps us locked into the loop of I feel rejected, I feel this, I feel that. It's like, yeah, but who, how can we get our foot in the door of our own dynamics? It and I so that then that plays out in our communities, this rebalancing of the roles, so there isn't this old way of men dominating, this dominating energy, because you're not happy. I mean, I know my husband, he's not happy doing it. It's just he's just repeating what his dad did and what his dad did, and to reprogram our minds, it's it's a process. And I think a lot of it is about the circles. Like you, Rudy, you're doing circles, or you both are, being able to listen deeply in a circle to when, instead of wanting to get things done. Like we don't have time to listen. There's too much going on. It's like, no, we need to pause, slow down, and have spaces to express the underlying grief and loss, and what everything that we have been pushing under the cover, under the rug, in the closet. Everything, all the boogeymen are out. It's it's that's how I'm seeing it. That's how I'm seeing it.
I love this idea of show me the way, because the movie I saw said, show me the money. But you're saying, show me the way. And,
Yeah.
but the way that plays out for me is that I had a corporate identity I mean, I went to a top-notch MBA in SAD. And after that, 25, 30-year corporate career, where my identity was defined by bullet points. Like I was in a role, like the marketing executive, with these bullet points and these objectives, right? So my entire identity was around that. But in this emergence, there are no bullet points. There's like more of a unmasked, like the masks have been taking away, these masks of identity. It feels weird, feels vulnerable, you know? But there are no bullet points. It's just me. Like, how can I put a list of bullet points to who I am? And it's changing a lot as I grow. And so in that, I've realized the stories I was living inside, stories that I had been programmed into about performance and acquiring stuff, what it means to be a man, all these stories that were deeply programmed. And, maybe a lot of people don't realize they're living inside a story. It's not even their own. It's been given to them. It's been programmed or conditioned into them. And then even during healing, people attach to new types of stories, like their trauma identity. Like, oh my God, all this stuff happened in childhood. Or then the spiritual identity, like love and light, Yeah. And so how do you help people like see this or realize this, or like identify the stories before they get attached to them?
It's an excellent question. Well, from my understanding, so the stories were our first place that we went when we didn't feel safe enough, or we weren't in an environment where we felt safe enough to feel our feelings and our emotions. This automatic mechanism that we have, which is so ingenious of the human body, was to disconnect. So we disconnected. I'm sure you both know this, but we disconnected from the emotions and we went up in our mind. And living in the mind and the stories gave an incredible sense of safety. So usually what happens in awakenings is we begin, from my own awakening, those stories, for me, it happened in layers. I would begin to see that, and it with a good therapist that highlights that story or that belief about yourself that keeps on showing up. You begin to highlight how that story has been around for a long, long time, where it originated, when it originated, what was happening in the outside, in the outside world, and what was happening within the body that you disconnected from. So when you begin by sharing that deeper understanding of, oh wow, that's an imprint that I wrote into my story, into my mind, that gave me that sense of safety and security, but it's not true anymore. So I would I would show that that's, you can see, but is it really true? And there's the work of Byron Katie, where you really question your beliefs. And when in therapy, when you work with someone, they see that, they understand that it's almost just a groove in the story, a groove in the mind. And like the cross country skiing, where you have your tracks, you make a new track and the new track. And once, after 3 or 4 times, you're turning the curve in your cross country skis and up, you're off in the other direction. But it takes discipline, it takes effort, and it takes a commitment. So it doesn't just happen. But once you understand, and I work really a lot with myself in this and reprogramming my mind. And I would, for me anyway, connecting to what I was calling divine neutrality would help a lot, because I would see my mind. Everybody's different, but for me, these tracks helped a lot. And I realized that by realizing the self-limiting belief, you have the ability to create a new belief for yourself. So that new belief is, I am power. I am empowered. I am divine. I am safe in my body. So all of it, whatever it is that we write them with the client, and she or he understand that when you're in that old story, by noticing it, becoming aware of it, you choose divine neutrality. And that, for me anyway, it activates higher awareness or the higher mind. And then I would work with the client on creating that new belief by remembering I am divine. It's presence. So by coming back into the present moment and in your heart, in the heart, it's like, wow, I could do that. It sounds clunky. I don't know if I explained it well, but you get the hang of it, and then I don't do it anymore. I mean, literally, I think I was probably, we always think we're mean to ourselves, but I was horrible to myself for so many years. And then I drowned myself in whatever I could find to be numb. But now I realize, wow, once I learned this process of kind of re-imprinting, I know who I am. But it's a practice, it's a commitment.
Beautiful. We are coming near the hour, and I feel like we could go on for hours here. It's such a beautiful conversation. But I also want to touch still on Difuso, because I think it's such a beautiful project that you have with your husband, Giancarlo. And I know the project also because it's about regenerating basically a gypsy neighborhood in the old center of Ibiza. But then moreover, it's like bringing in regenerative services like into that whole project, like the people, local food, your services, hosting artists that can co-create projects. Can you explain a bit more about the project and how far are you in it? Because I saw the beginning of it, and it has been, what, 2 years now? I haven't been in Ibiza. No, I was
Yes.
there last year, but not in Ibiza town.
So we're receiving clients now. So the idea is there's three pillars: expanded states. So whether it's with different medicines, breath work, ecstatic dance, but also eros. So we have an incredible team now of tantra teachers, sexuality, different forms of tantra and sexuality coaches, but also somatic psychotherapy, because it's one thing to have these expanded states, but it's another thing to bring them into the body and to integrate them. So and what is the third pillar is longer term. So it's from 2 weeks to 9 months, and we really encourage people to come and live here, to live with the team, because half of the therapists live in, right now we have 15 apartments in Ibiza town, in this specific area called Sapenia, and half of the apartments, they're therapists, coaches, and facilitators. So you're always around others who are also in the process, who've been through the process, who are actively engaging with this, I guess, in this co-creative space of that we're all here doing this together, and that we all kind of have agreed that there are no bullet points. But the bullet point, what we do know is that is this embodied experience of coming deeper into connection with our own truth. And so this is a place where people can come and work. They can work from here. There's a lot of people working now from their laptop, but then also in an hour you can meet with the group. I lead circles, compassionate inquiry circles in Ibiza town. I also there's an amazing team now of psychotherapists, and that some are working with IFS, others are working more traditional psychotherapy, and it's amazing. I mean, what's happening is so beautiful, and it's so it brings me so much hope that we are creating this, because it's happening through us, I guess, and our willingness to show up with our expertise and our skills, all of us, and say, okay, this is what I can bring, and to actually create programs that are not just one therapist. It's 5 different therapists at different times for different moments. We don't need just one. We don't need just the indigenous shaman. We also need somebody who's going to understand the mind. And then another person, some people really enjoy the healing power of eros, of how can we create more intimacy in our couples, with our own bodies, and how healing that is as well. And it just shows us how disconnected, I have the light in my eyes, how disconnected we've become from our own sexuality. So, as you know, Rudy, I don't know, Alex, how well you know Ibiza, but there also is a magic of this island that can be quite intense at times, but it's a beautiful place to come and heal. So that's why I'm so excited about the project. And it's a vision that my husband has had that's it is also working with the local communities. It is also creating more cultural events in Ibiza, because we definitely need more of that. And it is in this incredible neighborhood, which is really authentic. And it's not the apartments are gorgeous, but it's also really good to live in the old town, where the center is located. We have beautiful spaces. Everything's so beautifully redone. Yeah, it's happening. So come visit.
Yeah, beautiful project, and thanks for this co-creation with your husband. Alex, when you go to Ibiza, you know where to go. So I'll leave the last question to you, Alex.
Oh, thank you. I was in Ibiza last year. I didn't party in Ibiza, but I was there for a week, and it's so there's something indescribable about it. It's not only beautiful, but there's another mythical layer there, and you feel the energy. And so my last question then, and thank you for this amazing, deep, beautiful conversation. If you could plant a seed for the future, a seed of healing or awareness, what seed would you plant for the future?
100% I'd plant the seed of hope, and that we all remember that the as dark as it gets, at it's always darkest before dawn, and staying connected within the heart. So planting the seed of hope within everyone's heart to see their own light, and to realize that we all, if we slow down enough, we all have the ability to choose. And I understand on the front lines of many of conflicts that are happening right now, you may not say that they have that choice. So may we pray that those who don't have the ability to have the choice, that they have some peace within themselves, but that we're creating this each one of us, by allowing ourselves to be unique and to not get too distracted, because it is very distracting. If there's one thing I would say, it would be connect to hope and to ground yourself and stay anchored, because the vortexes can be really strong right now. So yeah, drink your water and stay grounded and pray, because I really, the power of prayer is important to remember, to ask for help. Thank you so much. This is so beautiful. Thank you.
Stephanie, this has been really, really beautiful reconnecting with you and hear your wisdom and your lovely energy.
Thank you, Rudy. And come, both of you. Would love to see you in Ibiza.
Sing no more,